to this trade war nonsense, just today, Poilievre was calling out Carney, and this clip comes from Jasmine Lane. When it comes to dealing with the most economically harmful tariffs at all, not from Trump, but rather from China.
Yeah. CPAC.
People across the country are suffering with this, but here in the prairies, of course, in the last 48 hours, people have had a new problem, and that is that the Chinese government has announced yet another unfair round of tariffs, this time charging a canola seed. They've already gone after oil and meal, and this is, of course, another unfair attack on our Western producers, who many of whom were having a fantastic growing season and looking forward to a bumper crop. That crop is now facing tariffs from one of our biggest customers. These tariffs are unfair and unjustified, and we lament the fact that Mark Carney has been so silent and so weak, failing to stand up for our farmers against these tariffs. Meanwhile, Carney continues to provide a billion-dollar taxpayer-backed loan for BC ferries to buy Chinese-made vessels.
Good point.
Can you imagine that? The sign of weakness that Carney is sending to the dictatorship in Beijing. You tax and tariff our farmers, and we'll give you a billion-dollar loan to create jobs in your country. That kind of weakness has led to failure after failure. Remember, Mark Carney promised that he was an international man of mystery who was going to negotiate deals and end tariffs. Well, what's the result been so far? Let's start south of the border. Since Prime Minister Carney took office, the Americans have doubled tariffs on Canada, while they signed deals with Europe, Japan, and other countries. They have increased penalties and increased the number of tariffs. Meanwhile, Mark Carney has made concession after concession, removing the digital services tax and counter tariffs while getting absolutely nothing in return. He sent his ministers to Mexico to try and get a bilateral deal with them. The Mexicans sent the Liberals packing. Yeah, he's done photo ops in Europe, but he hasn't got any deals, while the Americans have signed a deal to sell $750 billion of their energy products to the Europeans. Not a single dollar of European commitment to buy Canadian energy. It seems like since Prime Minister Carney took office, it has been American tariffs up and Liberal elbows down. We're seeing a back down and a failure. But we take no delight in this because as Carney fails abroad, Canadians pay the price at home.
He's completely right. The canola industry in one day, and it's compounding as the day goes on, took a $1 billion hit. And this is after 100% tariffs on canola. And now this is like a 75% anti-dumping fee, which is just a tariff. It has been a bumper year for canola in spite of this. And as Scott Moe pointed out yesterday, this is like a $47 billion a year industry. It is made in Canada. The seed itself is designed to grow in our climate, in our soil conditions, and to deal with our short growing season. You swath it, then it ripens. It's quite unique. And whatever you think about seed oils, and trust me, I do. I think the same things. The world wants it, and Canada grows it. I think it's our largest agricultural export. 70% of Alberta's canola that's destined for export goes directly to China. 50% of the country's canola is grown in Saskatchewan. So nobody cares. Right? Like nobody cares because this is exclusively happening to the two noisiest Western provinces and to some extent the interior of British Columbia and Manitoba. But this is really an Alberta, Saskatchewan problem. But you would think that given that the canola industry is larger than the steel industry, you might see some announcements, but we won't. And just to preface this, we don't want handouts, Western Canadian farmers. We don't. We just want the reason for the tariffs to end, and that is Mark Carney's tariffs on inbound electric vehicles from China. That's why this is all happening, is to protect those Ontario and Quebec jobs that were already given gajillions of dollars, and nobody wants them.
And nobody wants electric vehicles either.
Right.
So do away with the electric vehicle pipe dream. And
Yeah.
we have another clip here of Poilievre saying that same thing today. And he says, this is a longer clip, but I think it's worth playing because embedded in here, he says, for the northern, like the Yukon territories, Northwest territories,
Here.
it would cost upwards of 300 billion with a B dollars to put in electric charging station infrastructure. $300 billion when we have reliable, consistent, quality oil and gas to utilize. It's crazy.
No major projects, such as pipelines, have been proposed, approved, or begun construction. His energy cap, Carney's energy cap, industrial carbon tax, and continued support for banning pipelines, for the laws that ban pipeline, are keeping our resources in the ground and making us more dependent than ever on the Americans. So much for, he said it was going to be build, baby, build. So far it's been block, baby, block. He's not actually getting anything built. He's all talk and no action. Things are not different. They are getting worse. And there's more trouble ahead. Mark Carney's promised to ban your gas truck and car, which a ban that begins phasing in just months from today. It will kill jobs, balloon costs, and grind rural communities to a halt. Farmers, ranchers, resource workers would not be able to do their jobs because EVs don't work over long distances and in cold weather. It would literally erase many small towns from the map. Now, a lot of people will say that is hyperbole, but I asked the farmers here today, could the rural communities across the prairies actually continue to go on if they had to drive exclusively electric vehicles? Could that run on an electric battery? How could you move your grain to markets? How could you do the regular work that's required to have a pickup truck in minus 40-degree weather in February? It is simply not possible. What Mark Carney was doing by banning gas vehicles is he is banning the rural way of life. Communities across Western Canada, rural Ontario, y compris au Québec, and in the rural Atlantic would be gone. And forget about the northern territories of our country, where this pipe dream would be impossible. There's not even the electrical infrastructure. It would cost $300 billion to put in place the electrical charging stations and transmission networks to actually do that, which would be thousands of dollars of costs in higher taxes and prices for consumers for every single family. And not only would it eliminate rural communities, it would eliminate our auto sector. And don't take my word for it. I want to quote from a letter by automotive manufacturers who said, and I quote, this is a letter to Mr. Carney, to which he has not even responded. There is no longer a pathway to achieving the government's mandated sales level of 20% in 2026.
Hasn't even responded. How's that for your open and transparent government, Canadians?
Yeah, and, we're talking about building out electric vehicle infrastructure because of the Liberal government and the NDP colluders here in Alberta and our early phase out of coal, which is crazy. Like, it's coming out of the riverbeds. Like, you just walk down the riverbed, there's coal. Kick the ground, there's coal. That's why we don't have, we have open pit mining because it's so close to the surface. But we're not allowed to use it, so we get brownouts. But now we're going to throw in electric vehicles into the grid. And Poilievre is right to point out that the 300 horsepower tractor sitting behind him there, that if you go on the Case website right now, they don't even post a price for it, just so you understand how much these things cost. So what, farmers are just supposed to swap over? How are we going to run the power grid when all of a sudden we need to add heavy industry to become electrical also? I don't know if you've maybe Olivia can just Google the size of the mining equipment in Fort McMurray. like the size of the
Massive.
tires, just massive. And that's going to run efficiently on electricity in Alberta winters? No, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's a pipe dream, and it will devastate our entire economy. It will quite literally grind it to a halt.
Yeah, and I mean, imagine an initiative so good that you have to force everyone into it.
Right.
It's like, yeah, here, look at that. Look at the photo. Is that a little person? If you zoom into that orange vest, is that that's a person, I think, to the, I don't know what, my right, the other side of the screen there, right down at the bottom. See that little guy down there? That's a little guy, isn't it? Or is it a pylon?
There's a cone. There's a cone there. But
I'm looking at a tiny screen.
Even if you just Google people standing next to the mining truck tires,
the massive tires, yeah,
you'll just see like it just won't efficiently run on electricity. I mean, you'll get like 3 wheel turns, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention in the dead of winter, you'll get no wheel turns because it won't even work. But it reminds me of the COVID shots too, right? Because it was a treatment so good that you just had to force everyone to get it. It's like electric vehicles are technology so great, we have to mandate you all to drive them and offset the cost with massive government, i.e. taxpayer funded subsidies for things like Northvolt to flop anyway. So what are we doing here, and why is this moving ahead? I think like Carney was supposed to be the economist that saved us all with all of his banker experience. And well, we are, what I think it's 150-ish days into his tenure, and we have nothing to show for it in terms of tangible benefits that are getting Canadians out of this mess that the Liberals have been continually piling us into for the last 10 years. And electric vehicles are certainly one of those things. But
they work in certain, no, I was just going to say electric vehicles, like I'm not particularly against them. I know some of the people who watch us own them, but they might be right for you. But I can promise you they're wrong for me, and I should be allowed to choose something that works for me. It would be like forcing everybody into a small car when you have Ugolini levels of children, right?
Yeah.
They
into
make
the bike
other
lanes.
Right. They make other models because you have to choose what works for you.
Yeah, and speaking of the climate alarmism, which is what the electric vehicle mandate is entirely based off of, notwithstanding the fact that lithium mining is a complete environmental destroyer, and we cannot recycle these batteries, and they leach toxic chemicals into the groundwater.
And
but
when they start on fire, and when they start on fire, we don't know how to deal with them, and it makes firefighters sick and potentially fatally sick to deal with these fumes. But yes, let's build more of these electric battery facilities.
And, you know, that's funny because it sparked my thoughts on the wildfires plaguing our country. I wonder what role electric vehicles may play in something like that. Like, do they become overheated eventually when it becomes so hot and dry? I mean, we've been told that we can't hike in a forest. Well, what about your electric vehicle?
Well,
anyway,
that's